In today's video, we're going to talk about the habits of socially intelligent women and why this makes them very dangerous. These 7 habits will make you that woman, the one people lean in for. Think twice before crossing and never quite forget. Stick around to the end because habit 7 is the one most women never learn, and it is the one that changes everything about you and, importantly, how people treat you. If you're new here, hi there, I'm Samira. I talk about feminine energy, mindset, and rebuilding your life in a way that actually works for women without the burnout and extremes. So, if you're drawn to a change in your life, I would love for you to stick around and subscribe. Now, if I'm being honest about the opportunities that I've gotten, social intelligence is my single greatest unfair advantage I have as a woman. I've built relationships with politicians, executives, senior leaders. I've gotten into rooms I had no business being in. I've had clients tell my manager that they loved working with me even though I wasn't hitting the numbers. Not because I was the smartest person in the room, but because I understood something that most people don't. Being socially intelligent is a superpower. It kept me less reactive when things got hard. It helped me read between the lines, to hear what wasn't really being said as clearly as what was. It gave me the ability to use pattern recognition to see who someone really is before they show you. Now, I want to be clear about something before we go further. When I talk about understanding human behavior and psychology, I'm not talking about manipulation. As much as I love watching those reality shows like Survivor, Big Brother, all the game shows that really test social intelligence, I'm a big fan of those, but I am not telling you how to manipulate. I am talking about the opposite. I'm talking about learning these things so that you don't get manipulated, so that you can clearly see when someone is playing games and choose not to. So you stop being blindsided by people who were never who you thought they were, so that you move through life with your eyes open in a way that's good for you, good for the people that you love, and good for how you show up in the world. Because awareness isn't a weapon, it's armor. That distinction is everything. Okay, let's get into it. Real quick, before we dive in, if you're tired of hustling and have this strong calling to slow down, I created a free 7-day soft life workbook challenge. It's a simple but powerful way to start shifting your habits and energy with alignment with the woman that you deserve to become. The link is below. Grab it for free. Habit number 1 of a socially intelligent woman. She understands that reputation is everything. I know this can be a trigger for a lot of women that were constantly reminded about their reputation when we're limited in their lives. Trust me, I'm Afghan, Middle Eastern. In our household, reputation is brought up a lot. However, I'm kind of glad that it was because it is a thing. As much as we want to think that reputation is something that shouldn't be held against a woman, and no one should judge, human nature doesn't work that way. Naturally, subconsciously, everyone has a file book of every interaction they've had with someone. They're quietly judging. Even you, if you think you are the most non-judgmental person, you're quietly judging subconsciously, not just directly like this person does this, I'm gonna avoid her. You're gonna slowly start to distance yourself from those who have a bad reputation or have consistently shown up to a social gathering and has done something that you don't agree with or doesn't align with your values. What are some small examples that could be ruining your reputation? This could be the woman that vents about her boss in the break room and then later wonders why she's not being promoted. Or let's say that you engage in gossiping. A lot of people will pick up on the fact that for you to engage in that says a lot about you versus what you're talking about or who you're talking about. People can go as far as quietly categorizing you without even having a single conversation. She's reliable, she's dramatic, she's the one you go to, she's the one you should avoid. Why does this matter so much? Reputation can open or close doors even before you enter the room. I'm also big on the energetic interactions of people get, without directly saying something or doing something. The energy that you give off can also ruin your reputation. This could signaling over availability, emotional reactivity, or even people pleasing, which is something a lot of women are guilty of, to be treated accordingly. You may not realize it, but you could be sending off that signal. It's important to know that you cannot control how people think, but you can control what you consistently give them to think about. Now, you may think that you have a good reputation or, you have a good feel on how everyone thinks of you, but I do want to stress test you with just 3 of these things to do. One question I want you to ask yourself honestly is, if the people I had in my life right now had to describe me with one label, what do you think they would say? Is that the label that you want? In my experience, I've seen some women get labeled repeatedly by different people the same word, and it could be lazy or emotional, or I've even heard someone cold, someone that you wouldn't want to open up to. So just think about this. What is something that you think the close people in your life will label you as? And it'll kind of give you a feel of what your signaling out there. Another thing that you could do is that you can audit the small moments. How do you respond to stress in public? Let's say you have a child that's throwing a tantrum at the grocery store. How do you respond to it? Audit about how you speak about others. Are you constantly putting people down? Are you constantly pointing out the negative aspects of their life? Or are you constantly looking for the benefit of the doubt of people? Another small moment that you can audit yourself is how you show up when things are inconvenient. Are you big on community? Are you big on, being a family person? However, whenever they need you, you're never available. Trust me, I'm one of five and my husband's one of four, and we all have secret conversations amongst the siblings of who is the reliable one or who is the one that you don't want to ask for things. The goal is to start living the label that you want to be perceived as, especially in rooms that when no one is watching, because your reputation isn't built in big moments. It's built in every small choice that you didn't think counted. Habit number 2 of a socially intelligent woman. She uses pattern recognition and not first impressions. How many times have we been guilty of being gullible? Or how many times have we told a loved one or sister, a cousin, a close friend, hey, don't fall for these kind gestures or for the charm. Just try not to fall for it easily, because it's just something we naturally do. We women love to give benefit of the doubt to a lot of people. But we need to realize that charm is not character. One good interaction is not the full story. It's really important that you watch how someone behaves consistently, not just when it's convenient for them. Examples of this is a colleague that is warm to you but dismissive to the assistant or anyone below them. Or you could have that friend that only shows up when they need something. One instance of this happening could just be a bad day for that friend, but if it happens 3 times, that's a pattern. Or there might be instances, and this happens in a lot of relationships when you really like the guy, you notice patterns, but you tend to ignore it because you just don't want it to believe that it's true. And eventually that could cost you. Just some personal stories is that my husband and I met a neighbor and he was very friendly. And we noticed that every interaction that we had, he kept, promising us things like, hey, let me reach out to this recruiter about this job. Hey, let me reach out. Like, it was just the number of times he promised us things. Not that we didn't appreciate it. We were just like, wow, what a kind person who we just met a few times. And he's obviously going out of his way to, help us in situations that we found ourselves in. However, we started noticing that he didn't really follow through. And this didn't happen just one time. This happened many times where we found him make these bold promises. I think he was just someone that really cared about how he was perceived and wanted to make a good impression. However, but we too realized that he was a married man that had kids and worked full time, just like we did, and had no expectations whatsoever. And even though we kept telling him, hey, we get it, we're just as busy as we are. It's okay, don't worry about the promises, but he still insisted on doing this. And after a while, we were just like, okay, we know what he's doing. This is a pattern. We're not gonna believe a lot of the promises that he says, that even though he wanted to, he isn't able to follow through. And so it's important to not easily trust situations like this where you're like, man, this person didn't follow through and, all that kind of stuff. Like, you wanna be very careful with how people interact with you on multiple instances. I had a loved one that constantly made bad judgment when it came to friends, and she always trusted the wrong people. And it was because, they left such a great impression where she was just like, oh my God, they're so nice. I'm going to trust this person instantly. And then it turned out that they turned out to be really bad friends and always left her, in situations that she didn't want to. And it's just important to start, I'm not saying don't trust people or be skeptical. Just be mindful that not everyone is, like, back to what I was saying before, charm is not character, And this is a big thing with narcissists that you say, a lot of narcissists are guilty of love bombing, giving their best selves, going above and beyond in the beginning of a relationship, just love bombing, literally, and then later pulling back, leaving you wondering what's going on, what happened, and you for asking for more, leading to this vicious cycle. And of course, why does this matter? Most manipulation and betrayal comes from people that performed really well in the beginning. And when you start reading patterns instead of moments, you can't be fooled by a good first impression anymore. This helps protect your trust, your energy, and time from people who were never there for you in the beginning, from people who never appeared to be there for you in the beginning. Think about this before you start deepening. This actually reminds me of a new friend that I made, and she was very kind, very nice. We started hanging out. And then I started noticing how whenever we went out to eat, how she, literally was rude to, like, the cashier, or she was rude to the waitress. And I just saw how she interacted with people and how she gave an attitude when things didn't work out the way she did. And then she was telling me about how she had a bad interaction when she was traveling. And I low key couldn't help but think, I was like, are you sure they weren't just reacting to your bad energy? I hate to say this, but I have seen how she interacts with strangers, and so I, didn't easily fall for all of her stories and her interactions because I've seen how she is, and people might be matching that energy. That's part of being socially intelligent. Another thing you could do to vet your relationships is see how they treat people who can do nothing for them. That's a really good way to call out, how people are truly. And most importantly, you need to be patient about this, okay? So a lot of people just like to dive in, become best friends immediately, and trust someone and be like, you know what, this person wants the best for me immediately. No, no. You need to be very patient. Give it time. Patterns reveal themselves. You just have to be patient enough to look. Habit number 3 of a socially intelligent woman. She knows the difference between situational relationships and real relationships. Sometimes not every close relationship is a real one. Some are situational, built on proximity, convenience, or shared circumstance. Socially intelligent women can tell the difference, and they stop being hurt by relationships that were never designed to go deep. Some examples might be like that work friendship that feels like family until one of you left the job, and within months, that connection is gone. It wasn't fake, it was situational. That job was the glue. Or let's say you had a relationship that felt really deep and real in life, but that was entirely on a shared season of life. That's something as we mature and grow older, and something I've learned the hard way too with friendships, is that sometimes friendships did really well because we were in the same season of life. And so when that season ended, so did the closeness. I've had friendships that did really well, but as soon as I moved out of the city, it fell apart. I've had coworkers at work that I felt really close with, but once we both left the job, we have no idea what's going on in each other's life right now. I've seen relationships of women dating men that they were ready, the woman was ready to get married and the guy just wanted to just have fun. So she just kind of misread the situation between him and her. Now, this can be pretty hurtful and something that you may have to go through trial and error to kind of build the social skill, or obviously you could just listen to what I have to say and, pay attention and just be aware that sometimes not all friendships that seem very ideal in that moment is necessarily something that you could build real and deep and have for the next 10 years. Why does this matter? Misreading a situational relationship as a deep one sets you up to overinvest, overshare, and overtrust. This actually reminds me of my loved one venting about her friendships, of how when it was their baby showers or any kind of big event, she would buy the most expensive gifts and show up and be there for her in all aspects. But she started realizing that girl did nothing in return, and she had to learn the hard way that she kind of overinvested in this relationship when it was actually just one-sided. Another reason why this is important is because you can correctly identify what a relationship actually is. Like, I've even seen situations of someone that, really loves deep conversations and really serious topics and, just doesn't like small talk. And they start realizing that they're having difficulty with a close friend having those conversations because that person prefers surface level conversations. So it's over time you might be hurt and like, why isn't this person understanding me? But maybe that's just their personality, and it's not meant to become a relationship that goes that deep. It kind of has to be at that level. Then I want to just be clear that this isn't cynicism, it's clarity. You can actually still enjoy situational relationships. You can have a friend that's just there for fun. You can have a friend there for deep conversations, and you can have a friend there that's, reliable. You just have to stop building an emotional foundation on them. So here are some ways to audit this in terms of if you're misreading a relationship. Ask yourself, if the shared circumstance disappeared tomorrow, would this person still be in my life? Or you can do just an audit of past, friendships or relationships and see how much you've put in and how much someone else has put in. This will help you stop over-investing in relationships that haven't proven that they exist outside of a situation. And it's really important that you reserve your deepest vulnerability for relationships that have been tested across time, which it does exist out. There are some people that will be there for you no matter what in all shared seasons of life. So there might not be a lot of them. Let's say your friend group goes from 10 to 2, but keep those 2 people close to you and, but reserve your vulnerabilities to people that have proven to be there no matter what. Intelligent women know that not every relationship that felt real was built to last. Knowing the difference can help you stop being blindsided. Habit number 4 of a socially intelligent woman. She controls her emotional output. Now, this plays more into emotional intelligence, which is a big part of social intelligence, in my opinion. Now, emotional intelligence, I need to make this clear. It is not suppressing how you feel. It's about choosing what to express to who and when. Let me repeat that. It's about choosing what to express to whom and when. Every time you lose composure in public, you hand leverage to everyone watching. In that moment, it might feel good. You're expressing it, you're letting it out. However, to be intelligent and to know that, everyone's watching and how it's going to be interpreted, and like you can't control how people think, you're kind of handing it off to people to judge you and criticize you and think of you differently. Examples of this is that maybe at work someone challenged you or undermined you. And if you decide to stay calm, you'll start noticing how that affects the power dynamic. Or let's talk about the woman in the room that never takes the bait. I'm watching the latest Housewives season, and there's one newcomer that doesn't take the bait. She doesn't react as crazily, as dramatic as a lot of, what housewives have been known to do. And she's a woman that's not taking the bait, and she's approaching situations in a calm manner without really reacting. And a lot of people are talking about it because she's aware of how she's perceived versus the woman who reacts every time. I know this is a tough pill to swallow, and sometimes we feel like women are constantly suppressing how they feel. But I do think over time, the woman that has kept her composure or has regulated her nervous system and hasn't given anyone a situation or time or a moment to be talked about in situations or like gatherings, I think that's very powerful. And to be calm and composed and not be emotionally reactive is definitely going to lead that woman to be respected over time, despite the situation. And why does this matter? Staying calm signals to everyone that you cannot be destabilized. People remember the woman who held it together in a moment, designed to crack her. And composure is not coldness. This is something that could be misunderstood. It's actually a superpower in action. So next time, if you're in a situation where you feel triggered, pause and ask yourself, is this worth risking my composure? And I also want you to be aware that you want to save emotional safety for safe private spaces, not public ones that can be used against you. And a big one of this is when, a lot of influencers or celebrities go on live and pour it out. And a lot of people are not talking about what that person was crying about. They talk about, oh my gosh, she's crying on live. That is the reality of this world. We can go on a lot about how to be calm and regulated, and I actually have a video about nervous system regulation over here, so you can check it out. But just practicing a 3-second pause between stimulus and response, it changes everything. Habit number 5 of a socially intelligent woman. She knows what people actually want. We live in a time where most people do not directly say what they actually want. Socially intelligent women respond to the need underneath the words. They simply ask themselves, is this person seeking validation, power, connection, or control? Some examples of this is that if someone is to repeatedly say, I'm fine over and over again, a socially intelligent person would interpret it as this person wants connection, as in they want to be asked again. Or let's say we're in a situation where someone loves to give unsolicited advice. And instead of being annoyed by that and say, hey, why are you giving me this advice? I didn't ask for it. You understand that this person needs to feel useful or superior. They like control and power. Let's say someone is oversharing too quickly. That person is testing to see if you're a safe person. They're seeking connection. Another example if someone is to constantly interrupt you. This is another example of someone seeking power or validation, and they have the strong need to feel heard or just be in charge. When you start identifying people's real needs, you will know exactly how to handle every situation. Now, why does this matter? Manipulation only works on people that respond to a performance. Once you see the mechanism underneath it, it loses its power. It also trains you to stop taking behavior personally once you understand the need that's driving it. Also, why this is so important is because you become impossible to destabilize because you already know what's happening. There's been personal situations where, let's say, we've gone to a cottage with a big family and there's a lot of people there, and some people just love to give orders or just take initiative. And this used to rub me the wrong way. I was just thinking, like, who are you, dude? why are you telling us what to do? And situations like that, I started realizing, you know what, this person just needs this need to control. Like I started taking things less personally and stop being annoyed about it and just learn to ignore it and do things at my own pace. Or I've also met women that, you're casually talking and they ask questions and you start noticing them like one upping you. And it just becomes this constant competition between you and this woman. And it's just kind of like, why are we competing? Like, why is there always to be one up? And you start, it is annoying at first, but you start realizing, you know what, this person is really insecure and they really need to point out that, hey, I'm better than you. Go ahead, sis. Say it all you want. Yeah, you're amazing. So, next time when you're in an uncomfortable conversation, pause and ask, is this person looking for validation, power, connection, or control? This also plays a big role into like marriages and relationships. A lot of women just love to vent and not be told solutions. A lot of men like to jump to problem solving. And once men start realizing, you know what, she just needs to let it out. And I just need to be like, yeah, you're right. What they did was wrong. Just like validate them. Everything is rainbows and flowers after that in a relationship. But it takes time, communication is big in marriages and relationships. So these stuff take time. But this is an example of that. And remember that when you're in situations, you want to respond to needs, not words. And just watch how differently interactions unfold. Another tangible tip is that the 4 needs that I just mentioned, write it down somewhere and start observing it in all your interactions. And you'll remember, this is what the actual needs are in every interaction, and it'll help you pivot and interact differently in a lot of situations. Because a socially intelligent woman doesn't just hear what you say, she understands what you need. And that's what makes her 10 steps ahead. Habit number 6 of a socially intelligent woman: she stays warm without being easy to access. Now, I know in the past, being a warm and friendly and smiling woman is perceived as being weak, and the phenomenon of a resting bitch face was on the rise, where everyone was like, you want to have a resting bitch face? I take pride in the fact that I have a resting bitch face. But when it comes to your social game, I don't think that works in your favor. You're kind of somewhat repulsive. Let's say you're in a dark alley walking. You don't want to be warm and friendly, okay? You can have that resting bitch face on, let's say that, substantially. But if you're looking to be influential, if you're looking to be, attractive to a lot of people, it's important to stay warm and friendly and smile here and there. However, there's a big difference to being kind and being available. Socially intelligent women are genuinely warm. Like they are welcoming, they're not like out to get you, they're not very defensive. Socially intelligent women are, hey, you need something? Let me help you. But their warmth is not open access. Being likable and boundary-less are not the same thing. What are some examples of a woman that's too warm and too giving and just beyond kind, What is an example of a woman that's just a little too nice for her own benefit? This is a woman that smiles at everyone, helps everyone, and says yes to everyone. She is quietly taken for granted by everyone. There's some women that are overgiving as a way to be liked, but instead of them being liked, it just trains people to expect that from you and not appreciate you for doing that. But let's create a contrast between the woman that's giving endlessly and the woman that knows when to stop when she needs to. Which one of these women get more respect? I've personally in my life have seen situations where a woman has, constantly been available or constantly giving. And then sadly, in many situations, that person is forgotten about. They're not invited to places, or no one calls to check up on them when they have issues. And it's just that people just don't take them too seriously because they just know that whatever happens, or if they don't show up, that person will be nice regardless. And subconsciously, energetically, when you are constantly warm and available and overgiving, people perceive that as weak. The occasional no, the occasional not being available is going to earn you more respect. Some situations that I've seen personally in my life is that some women, let's say they get married and they're like a new bride in the family and they're so nice and overgiving and they immediately perceive their in-laws as their own family. And sadly, they're not, given the same energy. They're, taken for granted or not respected or actually been treated worse than the women that go into families being a little cautious and aware of the fact that, maybe their in-laws are not immediately equal to how their family would love and care for them. And so why does this matter so much? Women who are endlessly accessible become endlessly exploitable. People stop seeing them as someone with standards. But part of being warm and giving and being just a good person overall is that knowing that boundaries do not make you cold. They don't make you into a mean person. They make your warmth mean something. Make it worthwhile to those who actually deserve it. Because the most respected women are very selective to whom and when they give their love and energy and softness to. I've seen situations of women being in relationships where they just love their man so much and they want to show their love. And let's say their love language is gift giving. And go above and beyond in buying their partner, their boyfriend or husband gifts. And it's just a way, and it's just because they love that person so much, like they're just like, I just love this person, they show love, they deserve it. But over time, they see that same energy is not being matched. Let's say the partner doesn't care for the gifts that she gives him, or he doesn't return the same amount of effort when it comes to gift giving, and it can hurt her over time. Another thing that I've seen with women, and where I've been in situations where I personally take my time very seriously. And there has been times where I've noticed that some friends are, repeatedly late or repeatedly changing plans last minute. And there were times where I had to have the hard conversation as in like, hey, I don't feel respected in terms of my time. And having that hard confrontational conversation about, hey, I'm not going to keep showing up or making plans if there's a chance you might be late or you might not you might change plans last minute. And over time that person changes their behavior and they continue showing up. And although it may sound a little negative that I approach them that way, but the people that are always like, it's okay, no problem, it's okay if you don't show up, but the woman that's constantly saying it's okay, that always understand the situations, that other person that keeps changing plans will never learn from their mistakes. So if you find yourself guilty of this situation where you're a little too warm and too giving and you find yourself not being respected, try to identify where you are confusing kindness with over availability and start separating the two. Because saying no doesn't have to be cold and blunt and rude. You can say no with warmth. You can create distance with grace. The delivery doesn't have to be cold for the boundary to feel real. Here's a question to ask yourself whenever you're feeling like you're overgiving. Am I giving this because I want to? Or am I giving this because I'm afraid of what happens when I don't? Because a woman's warmth can be used as a power, and it's real. It's very real. It's built in us. And a lot of something that men crave in a woman is her warmth. It's a lot of something that we innately possess biologically, emotionally, spiritually, and we're not to exploit us. It's important not to exploit it for ourselves and know when to use it when it matters the most. A woman's warmth is real, but it's not unlimited, and that's exactly why people value it. Number 7 of a socially intelligent woman. Now, this is one that's overlooked by a lot of women, a lot, and it's something we constantly have to work on. She lets trust be earned and not assumed. What do I mean by that? Socially intelligent women do not withhold trust just to be cold. They simply just don't hand it out before it's earned. It is built slowly, quietly, through consistency over time. And she pays attention to whether that consistency is actually there. Let's say you're with a friend and you share something small and personal. At that moment, it's important to notice if that little thing that you shared with a friend stays private or travels. It's not a game, you're just paying attention. Let's say you want to test if someone is going to show up for you consistently. You can start asking for something small and low stakes and start seeing whether if that person is following through or not. Small consistency predicts big consistency. Sometimes there might be a case where you have to set a small boundary gently. Notice how that person responds. Do they respect it quietly, or do they push back, guilt trip you, or totally ignore it? There was one situation I had with someone where I would vocally say, hey, I prefer brunch over dinner. Hey, I prefer we go through this entrance. And I would notice that person consistently just ignore my preference and just do what she wanted to do. It was a situation where I would literally say out loud, my boundaries and, my preference and, speak up for what I actually wanted whenever time we planned something out. And it would just be flat out ignored and just plan the way she wanted to do it. Like flat out just ignore my preference altogether. And I noticed over time, the pattern is we just ended up doing what she wanted to do. And I wasn't the type to push back constantly. I would just be like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. But I'm like, you know what? This person does not respect my preference or what I want at all. So over time, I was like, you know what? This person doesn't value my opinion, and I'm going to slowly distance myself and not give her the same trust that she expected from me from the beginning. Or there was another situation where I reconnected with a loved one after a very long time. And I was dealing with family loss and it brought us back together after a long time. And in those small interactions of coming back together, it's almost like she wanted me to be vulnerable and open from the get-go, and constantly said how like I just love people who are open with me and deep with me. And I in my head I'm just thinking that, I haven't talked to you in almost over 10 years. And for me to reach that level of depth, and it's going to be a little hard for me. And as much as she kept saying, open up to me, it I still took my time and didn't really open up as much in that time, especially when I knew I was vulnerable. So I didn't allow her to manipulate me in terms of opening up and being vulnerable and, deep with someone that I had just reconnected after 10 years. These are small personal situations, but I want to talk about why this matters. Women who assume trust before it's earned are the most vulnerable to being taken advantage of, betrayed, or used. Because most people reveal themselves in little moments way before a big event happens. The socially intelligent woman just pays attention. She doesn't wait for something big to happen, like betrayal or, something. Yeah, she doesn't wait for that. She starts seeing it in little small instances. Now, this isn't about being suspicious of everyone. I'm not saying you should walk the earth being skeptical and suspicious and everyone's out to get you. I'm not saying that. But I just, like I said, pattern recognition, reading in between the lines, going based off past experiences. It's about being a good steward of your own heart and energy. Before you deepen any relationship, slow down and ask yourself, has this person shown me consistency and not just warmth? And like I mentioned before, you should notice how someone responds the first time you leave a boundary. Or a second thing you could do is that start placing a boundary and notice how that person responds. Will they respect it? Will they flat out ignore it? Or will they, challenge you on it? Let their actions, not their words, be what decides it. So I'm not telling you to walk around and just not trust people. I'm simply telling you to wait for people to show who they are to you before you decide how much of yourself you're willing to give. And just to wrap it up, social intelligence isn't something that you're born with. It's a skill, but through observation, through pattern recognition, through the slow, steady practice of studying human behavior and using that understanding as armor, not a weapon. I'm telling you, once you see these dynamics, you cannot unsee it. Your relationship shifts, the way people speak to you shifts, and most importantly, the way you feel about yourself shifts. Because you stop reacting to the world and start moving with intention, like a woman who is 10 steps ahead. If this resonates with you, please don't forget to share it with a friend that you feel like might resonate with it as well. And if you're just finding this channel, please don't forget to hit subscribe and check out my other videos. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I hope to see you at my next one. Bye!